Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are tackling one of history's all-time greatest mysteries. Just how were the Great Pyramids built? And let me tell you, the answer isn't what you learned in school. It's a story of incredible, forgotten science and brilliant chemistry. I mean, just look at this thing. The sheer scale of the Great Pyramid has been baffling scientists, engineers, and historians for, well, centuries. It seems completely impossible for its time. It's a structure so massive and so precise that it really challenges everything we think we know about the ancient world. So let's just try to wrap our heads around the numbers here. The Great Pyramid is built from over 2 million massive stone blocks. That's 2 million. Each one is a giant piece of a puzzle on a scale that's almost unimaginable. And we're not talking about small stones here. Some of the individual granite blocks, especially the ones way up in the King's Chamber, weigh up to 70 tons. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that's like the weight of about 10 adult elephants, all lifted to a height of nearly 150 meters. Okay, so let's really dive into this engineering puzzle. You know, building something on this scale today, with all of our modern cranes and technology, would be a monumental challenge. So how in the world did they pull this off over 4,000 years ago? So when you really break it down, the challenges just seem completely insurmountable. We're talking about lifting insane amounts of weight, carving with a precision that's almost perfect, and then fitting these stones so tightly, you can't even slide a piece of paper between them. These problems are so huge that, honestly, they've led to some pretty wild theories. And before we get to the actual science of it all, we gotta address some of the more, let's say, fantastical explanations that people have come up with over the years. Some of these ideas are truly out of this world. Look, theories about aliens or an ancient race of giants, they're definitely fun to think about, but they just fall apart the second you look for any real proof. There is absolutely zero physical evidence for any kind of extraterrestrial help. And as for giants, well, the mummies and the sarcophagi they left behind, they show us the Egyptians were people just like you and me. So we've got to look for a more rational answer. So what about the story that most of us learned in history class? You know, the one with thousands of workers, these giant ramps, and wooden logs for rollers? Well, let's take a closer look at why that story doesn't really hold up. Right, this is the classic textbook method. You cut the stones, you haul them for miles, and then you drag them up this gigantic earthen ramp. It seems kind of plausible at first glance, but the moment you start applying some basic physics and logic, the whole story really starts to crumble. The problems with this ramp theory are just immense. First off, a ramp made of earth and sand strong enough to hold a 70-ton block wouldn't just be big, it would have to be an engineering marvel all on its own, maybe even bigger than the pyramid itself. And yet, archaeologists have found absolutely no trace of it. When you look at the physics, the traditional idea isn't just difficult, it's pretty much impossible. So, if they didn't carve and then lift millions of these impossibly heavy stones, what did they do? And this question right here leads us to a completely radical but totally brilliant alternative that solves all of these problems at once. The big breakthrough came when scientists stopped asking how the stones were lifted, and they started asking a different question. What are the stones actually made of? And the answer is revolutionary. They weren't lifted at all. They were poured. This new theory proposes that the ancient Egyptians were actually master chemists. They invented this incredibly advanced form of concrete, what we call a geopolymer, made from things like limestone, clay, and other binders. So they weren't lifting solid rock. They were carrying buckets of a wet slurry up the pyramid and casting the blocks right there on site. This quote from the researcher Joseph Davidovits, who pioneered this whole idea, just completely reframes the entire mystery. It transforms the Egyptians from laborers doing an impossible task into brilliant scientists who are using advanced material science. So this is an incredible idea. But the crucial question is, where's the evidence? Well, it turns out the clues were literally hidden inside the stones themselves this whole time. So get this. The story starts when a team of scientists is using high-tech gear to scan the pyramid for hidden chambers, and their equipment, which was working just fine, suddenly starts giving them these bizarre, contradictory readings. There was only one possible explanation. For some reason, the pyramid stones contained a really, really high amount of water. And this table just illustrates the difference perfectly. Natural stone that you'd get from a quarry has very low water content, its density is consistent, and any fossils inside are neatly layered. The pyramid stones, they're the complete opposite. Super high water content, the density is all over the place, and the fossils are jumbled up randomly. These are all the chemical fingerprints of a man-made material that was once a liquid slurry. Think about how beautifully simple this method is. Instead of impossibly heavy lifting, you just have workers carrying buckets. Instead of impossible carving for a perfect fit, you have simple wooden molds. They just pour the mixture in, let it set, and then move the molds up to the next spot, creating a perfect seal every single time. And just like that, this single theory solves every major problem that has stumped historians for centuries. The perfect fit? Well, the blocks were cast right up against each other. The lack of ramps? They weren't needed. That high water content? It's the chemical signature of the whole process. And the incredible speed of construction? Well, pouring concrete is a whole lot faster than carving and lifting a mountain of stone. This completely changes how we should see the ancient Egyptians. They weren't just master builders, they were brilliant chemists who had a level of scientific knowledge that we are only just now starting to rediscover. It really makes you wonder, what other incredible secrets from our ancient past are still out there, just waiting to be uncovered?